Okay, guys, welcome back again. Third key knowledge dot point, this outcome 3 as we're moving through our external business environment. And in this one, we are looking at societal attitudes. So here's where it sits in our study design: societal attitudes and behaviour, such as values, beliefs, and trends. So those last 3 bits are important. I'm going to kind of focus on what that means to this in this context of values, beliefs, and trends, kind of try and split things out a little bit with those 3 things, although they are kind of quite closely related. So here we go back to our diagram. Again, I want you to get a good picture of this in your mind. So, ideally, when we've done this, if I said, draw the environments of business diagram, you could be able to basically reproduce this exactly as you see it here. So if we keep showing to you this in each video, hopefully becoming a bit more, stuck in your head. But that then really allows you, when you come to answering questions, to, your brain goes to the right bit of the content when you're trying to come up with responses to these questions. So fundamentally, what's this all about? Okay, so societal attitudes. Over time, societies and the people within them change in a number of ways, okay? Just the way that society thinks and acts, it's ever evolving. Okay, so you guys growing up in the 2000s, as you are, kind of have a different way of thinking about things to, when I grew up in the 1970s and 80s. And it's really important for business owners, business managers, to have an understanding of those changes, what's going on in the world around them, which is why it's the external environment, and to take account of those changes in business planning. Okay, so to attract customers, businesses basically need to make sure that what they're offering reflects what customers place important on. So in other words, these values, beliefs, and trends. So if what we're trying to sell in the community is something that people don't value, don't believe in, and is going against the current trends, your business is probably not going to be successful, which is why this is so important to be kind of thought about right from the outset of starting a business. And if businesses don't do this, ultimately it's going to lead to failure. Okay, look, a couple of simple examples, and some of these actually, I'll just point out, they do actually kind of cross over into other areas in the external environment as well. So this one also crosses over in technology, but it links into trends as well. It's kind of a bit of both. So Blockbuster, you'll be aware of Blockbuster, I'm sure, but long story short, it used to be a huge business all over the world, massive revenues, huge number of locations all around the world. What happened was basically Blockbuster weren't interested in an offer by Netflix going back 23 years now to sell itself to Netflix for $50 million. Basically, Blockbuster thought that Netflix was a very niche, small business. They didn't think that streaming was the future at all. They thought the direction that their business was going was the future. They basically didn't believe that that was a trend at all. And they turned down that offer. In 2021, Netflix has over 220 million subscribers worldwide, net worth of $160 billion. I'm sure those figures have both got much bigger now by the end of 2023. And where is Blockbuster? It's pretty much extinct. So this is, Blockbuster not picking up on this trend that was kind of in the pipeline. Whereas Netflix were jumping on this trend and create a business out of it. Blockbuster didn't believe that was a thing, and it led to their failure. Toys R Us, look, a bit of a similar sort of story. And again, this kind of crosses over into technology. The issue here was the lack of an online presence, a proper online presence. Okay, they basically got into the e-commerce and developed an online presence far too late. And in the end, that led to Blockbuster kind of disappearing for a while. It's now actually, I believe, come back in the last year or two. They're starting to kind of reinvent themselves in some way, but certainly they're not at the level that they were at when they were huge a few years back. So again, this online trend of people wanting to purchase online and the necessity to, move your business online, they just kind of missed out on that trend. So obviously that's technology as well. But yeah, another example. And look, here's another 5 businesses, similar things. Again, largely linked to technology, but again, missed out on trends. Polaroid Borders, Tower Records, Kodak and Compaq, all of which either no longer exist or exist in a much more kind of scaled down form than what they did when they were operating at their peak. So let's just go back to the study design for a bit. When it says societal attitudes such as values, beliefs and trends. So I think it makes sense to kind of keep values and beliefs kind of together because they kind of very much align. Values and beliefs kind of mean sort of like the same thing, and then deal with trends afterwards. So our society, if we look at values and beliefs together, this is all about, our opinions about how business operates. Our values and beliefs form our opinions about how business operate. And that's changed over time. In this day and age, social media, global communication, all that sort of stuff, it's become even more important for businesses to think about when they're going through the planning process, because these values and beliefs can travel so much more quickly and easily than they could prior to social media and the ease with which global communication happens these days. So some examples of these values and beliefs. Okay, so McDonald's, and I've actually referred to this example before. I think actually in one of the recent videos when we looked at social responsibility and business planning, I talked about this one. But this was, going back to McDonald's and their packaging in the mid-90s, or up until the mid-90s, they used the styrofoam packaging that you still see in some small takeaway type businesses in the suburbs around these days. But then they moved to the more socially responsible packaging that we still see today, which is biodegradable and all that kind of good stuff. The styrofoam stuff was not biodegradable. And again, that was because, people valued the planet and landfill was becoming an issue, sustainability, and this idea of products not breaking down in landfill. That was, and in society there was just this belief that businesses need to be doing something more. So McDonald's, if they'd have continued down their line of using, the styrofoam packaging which was not like environmentally friendly, probably would have been a bad look for them. Then you have the potential to lose customers. So they switched to something which, although is not as good for purpose, it satisfied that requirement, in terms of values and belief society, that it is more environmentally friendly. The more recent example, the straws. Now, those paper straws that they give now, they're useless. They go soggy, as a straw, but they are environmentally friendly. So again, it was off of that drive from society, the fact that we want businesses to be working in an environmentally and sustainable way. So that was what drove that decision. So all of that is an example of how business has responded to society's values and beliefs around the expectations that business should be positively impacting the community and the environment, or at the very least not having a negative impact on it. Yeah. So that's kind of, that's one business's response to that change in values and beliefs. So in other words, corporate social responsibility, which again is why I've said several times now, this theme of CSR is so prevalent in this course because it is so prevalent and so important in the operation, anyone operating in today's business world. So another example of changing values and beliefs is this growing awareness of health, fitness and well-being, okay, which again over the last couple of decades has become a much more of a thing than it was when I was your age. Again, McDonald's response to that, over the last couple of decades, they've introduced, healthy options, the wraps and the salads. Now, look, you could look at this cynically because the reality is if you look at, for example, a Caesar salad, the McDonald's selling actually has more calories than a Big Mac. So there is an element of kind of bluff to this, but it's all about the perception. So they moved into these healthy lines because, again, if they'd have not done this and they'd have stuck to their guns with their traditional offerings, burgers and fries and milkshakes and stuff, and offered nothing else, they would have lost out on a huge part of the market that is seeking something healthier, So again, it's McDonald's response to this change in values and beliefs held in society. The gym industry, again, when I was your age, there weren't gyms throughout every suburb. Now they're all over the place because, everyone understands and is more into this, health and fitness than they once were. So this is a whole industry that has kind of grown around that change in values and beliefs in society. Greater awareness of physical health and fitness, okay? Food businesses, supermarkets, cafes, restaurants, offering a wider range of healthy options and alternatives than they did previously. And pretty much all food businesses do this as well. If you go to breakfast at a cafe now, there's always the kind of healthy little section of the menu for people that, are into this, as a, on top of the sausage, eggs and bacon that other people might be getting. Greater awareness of social responsibility, business developing environmental policies, and being very much more visible in their sort of socially responsible actions. Every large business now has some kind of environmental policy, and it's always on their website, and you can click into it and see exactly what they're doing to be more sustainable in their operations and much more visible. It actually now forms part of their marketing and how they're differentiating themselves from the competition by saying, we are super social responsible, come and shop with us. And again, all comes back to this is just now what society expects. It's how our beliefs and values have changed. A more recent one is a greater awareness of mental health and well-being issues. Okay, this is really, I would say probably even 10 years ago wasn't even such a thing. Definitely COVID kind of draw people's focus to this, but even before that it was kind of becoming more important, but now hugely important. So how's that impacted business planning? Look, an increased focus within business on the work-life balance of the employees become more of a thing, and that's kind of been helped out by, again, that's actually been helped by COVID, with the fact that everybody had to work from home for a couple of years essentially, and the technology kind of very quickly developed, probably more quickly than it would have done, to assist with people doing that. So even after COVID now, there's a lot of people still working from home. So this idea of work-life balance is kind of more doable and is much more common than it was pre-COVID. And there's also now a lot more businesses who are providing access to counselling and other services, support services related to well-being, just as part of the package that they offer to their employees. Now, if we move on to trends, okay, so now differentiating those three things in the study design, so let's turn the values and beliefs together. Trends, this is more about a pattern or a change in direction of something. So again, businesses need to be constantly monitoring that external environment for trends which can impact their target market and therefore their business planning and operation. And I know the values and beliefs could also be seen as a trend as well, but just kind of trying to differentiate out into a couple of different categories here. So if businesses are able to pick up on trends, then they're more likely to retain the customers that they have and also pick up new ones from competitors who are not maybe noticing and kind of changing their business to go along with these trends. So an example here might be an increasing reliance on technology. Okay, how technology impacts business is huge. Okay, so now the need for businesses to have an effective website. Okay, pretty much all businesses need some kind of online presence, I would argue. And there's lots of different ways now that businesses can interact with their customers. And again, if your target market is, the younger part of society, sort of maybe 15, 16s to the even early 30s, maybe somewhere in that kind of a range, it's almost an expectation now in certain types of business that they're going to interact with you online. So again, if you're ignoring that trend, then you're ignoring, the needs of a large part of your potential customer base here. Also, processes coming from technology that can lead to advances in efficiency in how you're operating. Efficiency meaning you can do things for less money than you once could. So that's important to pick up on, because if all of your competitors are picking up on these technologies and using them to be more efficient in their operations and you're not, it means ultimately they might be able to undercut you in terms of pricing. Also, technology can lead to enhancements in the quality of the products and services you're producing. We talk about all of this stuff actually in year 12 in a lot of detail, but just kind of putting it out there as it relates to this context. So basically, look, the technology is ever increasing. There's lots of trends in the different directions that technology is moving. It's really important, if you're running a business, that you're across these trends and kind of making the most of them and not just ignoring them and kind of letting them pass you by. Another example here, look, an increased focus on gender equality. This is kind of a more recent thing. Businesses or society, but certainly businesses, are now becoming more and more aware of issues such as the gender pay gap, which became a kind of hot topic, around, I think, 2020, 2021. This was being talked about a lot. And now businesses are implementing policies to deal with gender equality and working on issues to resolve some of the inequalities that have become so entrenched in a lot of businesses over a long period of time. So there's this idea that, according to the gender pay gap, that, there's women earning less for men doing similar work. There's less women in the top jobs in business, all this sort of stuff. So there's a lot of businesses out there now and we're working very actively to kind of redress those balances. And again, that's something we look at later on in the course a little bit as well. Another trend, and I did, talk about this a bit in the values and beliefs. Like I say, there is some crossover with this stuff, but a lot more purchases being made related to health, fitness, well-being, that whole kind of holistic kind of approach to life. Coming back to the ideas that, in terms of impacting on business planning, a lot of business now are focusing on products and services that reflect that changing trend. So if they're not completely changing the products or services that they offer, they're at least providing additional products and services that do cater to this, developing market. So summing up, okay, trying to kind of bring all this under a nutshell, to remain relevant and competitive, okay, which is really important. Any business that does not remain relevant or competitive ultimately is going to fail. So to do that, businesses have to stay up to date with what's happening in the broader external environment in terms of the values and beliefs of society and the trends that are generally occurring within it. If they do not do that, ultimately, they are going to fail. And that is a wrap for this video. I will see you in the next video for Key Knowledge 4. Cheers for now.